have now reached your destination.
Hello.
Hi,
Welcome back.
what's up?
Here we are again.
I know, it's fun.
We meet again.
Oh, God, every day.
I literally haven't not seen you in way too many days.
Every day. We went from spending the most time away from each other we ever have in our life to spending the most time with each other that we ever have in our life.
Oh man, what a blessing it is. That's Booney.
Don't mind Boone.
Yeah, her name's Luna, but we call her Booney.
Luna Buna, Booney, Boondaka.
Oh, so many names.
Yeah.
We have 2 dogs. Anyways, that's not the topic.
Bear's not important.
How dare you? Well, here we are. It is episode 2 of the Dope Yogi podcast. This is the Imposter Syndrome episode. Dun, dun, dun.
You fake ass.
We want to talk about this because it is something that I think I know I struggle with. And I think most everybody in their life has experienced the feeling of being an imposter, or you could also just call it self-doubt.
Self-doubt.
Yeah, that's what it is, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, it expands on self-doubt. Like I suffer from self-doubt, which is why we've had this this is a podcast brought to you by
Stop.
me. I've struggled with self-doubt. That's why I've had this podcast equipment for almost 6 years and have never used it once.
Yes, that's true.
Imposter syndrome is where you start achieving some level of success and you attribute it to either luck or anything other than the hard work you've put in, and it affects you in a way where you can have anxiety, tons more extra self-doubt, really a lot of problems with feeling like you're a fraud.
Right. Yeah, so just to kind of define what it is, without using a definite, like a Webster's definition. It is an actual thing that has been studied in the world of psychology
Since 1978.
Right. So they do know that it's not, we're not just making this up, but it's essentially the belief that no matter your success or your accomplishments, you still feel inadequate, or you feel like you're not good enough, or you feel like you're not ready enough to show up for the conversation. You feel like your success is attributed to luck, or that you kind of undermine your experience or expertise in your field. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to kind of break it down a little bit more than that, who can this affect?
Everybody.
Literally everybody. It can affect everybody. And by nature, I am a confident person, I would say. And I struggle with this imposter syndrome every single day. I've gotten a lot better about it.
Where do you find it affecting you most?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well, actually right now I mean, maybe the podcast, but I don't really think that I'm letting it affect me in my life. I've figured out ways to combat it and to overcome it, which is kind of what we're going to get to. That's what we want to cover in this episode, really, is talking about this imposter syndrome, self-doubt in general, and actual tangible ways that we can work through it.
It sounds very useful.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully that's the goal.
I hope so.
Yeah. So
What do you got on your computer over there?
It's just some show notes.
Show notes.
Yeah.
You guys, we are improving. We have notes. I have something written down. Nicole has something written down. So you can see who wears the pants in this relationship, where I wanted to free wheel and deal my way through this podcast like some sort of desperado. But Nicole has won, and we have notes.
We have notes. You are a desperado.
Dude, that was my favorite movie growing up.
I've never seen it.
What? Antonio Banderas.
Maybe I think
He keeps all of his guns.
Oh, no, I have seen it. I have seen it.
Boy, that's movie is
Boy,
dope.
boy.
I love that movie.
Well,
Psh, psh, psh.
back to Imposter Syndrome.
Shout
No.
out to Antonio Banderas, bro.
Where did he go?
Dude, what I was about to say was super inappropriate, but I think he just kind of fell off. So
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We'll talk about that later.
Hmm.
One thing that I do know for sure is this idea of imposter syndrome. It can actually really highly affect people that struggle with perfectionism also, which I am guilty of. Not
Yes.
guilty of, but I'm a recovering perfectionist. We all know that. I've spoken about this openly and freely for a long time. For a long time, I thought that unless everything I did was perfect, it was not worthy, and which in turn meant that I was not worthy. So people that really want to get everything right and have everything perfect, I think have a lot harder time accepting when they do kind of get it right. Because it can always, in my mind, anything that we do, and you asked me earlier, where am I struggling with this? This is actually an example that I can think of. Everything that we do, all of the content that we produce, everything that I write, everything that we come up with for Dope Yogi, the videos, my classes, no matter how awesome it is or what kind of great feedback I get, in the back of my mind, and I am aware of it, but in the back of my mind, I am always like, well, this is how it could have been better.
That's funny because last night you accidentally didn't record your favorite class ever.
Don't get me started.
I wonder
God
if
damn
it still would have been your favorite class if it did record. It's like not there, so it's perfect. You said that it was like the perfect class, the best class you've taught in 10 years. I wonder if it did record, if it would have just been like, oh, it's a good class.
Ugh, damn it. Who knows? We'll never know.
I know.
No, I know. It's you're probably right, because I'm going to teach that same sequence on Saturday morning, and I guarantee you after I get done teaching, I'm going to be like, whatever.
The first one was better.
Yeah.
Well, so what's on your notes now?
Well,
where are we going?
I want to talk about personal experience, just to give an example of where I have in the past really struggled with this idea of I'm not good enough. And I think that I think we all struggle with this a little bit growing up as kids. I feel like the first experience that we all can relate to on just a baseline level is, when you're in, let's just say like when you're in high school and you start hanging out with new groups of people, or if you're not really that popular, and then you get invited to like the popular kids party, and then you get to the party and you're like, oh my God, like I don't belong here. Or, you just feel a little out of place, like you're not good enough. And I think that's like maybe the first time that as a, you're not an adult, but as somebody that's getting a little bit of independence, you might start to experience it then. But for me, the first time that I can vividly remember feeling like an imposter was during college so for those of you that don't know, my background is in fashion. I went to school for fashion merchandising and in New York City, and I was in the fashion industry for a long time, which is a very competitive, very surface level, very cliquey industry, and it's very much like everybody for yourself. And being in fashion, being in just that luxury brand world, you are constantly bombarded with people that are beautiful, that wear really expensive clothing, that you just feel like you have to keep up. And me coming from a family where I always had everything I needed. My parents were amazing at raising me, and I'm very fortunate for that, and had a lot of privilege growing up, but we didn't have we weren't rich by any means whatsoever. We were like very like, you know, what's the medium income? What's that word?
Middle class.
Yes. Middle
That's
class.
so funny.
Yes. So
I don't know what growing up middle class is like.
Well, that's what it was like. So I go to college, and all of a sudden I'm like surrounded by 18-year-old girls who are wearing Louis Vuitton purses and Gucci shoes, and I'm like, oh, with my Target bag in fashion school. And it was a vivid moment where I was like, oh my God, I don't belong here. How am I ever going to make it in the fashion industry? I can't afford a $2,000 handbag. Now fast forward, I would never pay for that. I would never buy. I don't support that industry anymore, which is a big reason why I left, but that's a whole nother topic. So yeah, that's just kind of, one example.
How'd you get over that in college, or did you ever?
I quit. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I think that I just, once I started working, I got a job and I started making my own money, and it was helpful that the company I worked for at the time provided me with a clothing allowance. So I was allowed to get very nice clothing for not a lot of money. And so probably that helped, but
Yeah, so you at that time leaned into it and started getting the things that would allow you to be fashionable in that industry.
Yeah. 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 And then fast forward to now, the things that most recently I have struggled with at first, when we first started the blog, when Dope Yogi was just a blog starting, I know that I'm a good writer. I can confidently say that. However, I would write things and be like, who the fuck am I to be an authority on this topic of yoga that I've been teaching for 10 years? Even though, of course, I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of knowledge on this topic and in this industry, but still, for some reason, it's like, you're not a blogger. Who wants to listen to what you have to say? Why would anybody read your writing?
Yeah, blogging's funny because all you have to do is write, and then all of a sudden you're a blogger.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've been a blogger for over a year, and it's amazing.
Oh,
really good.
You only say these things on the podcast.
That's not true. How dare you? Yeah, so some of my personal experiences with this is we talked on the last podcast. I've been practicing yoga for 10 years. We get into this dope yogi thing, and our main goal is to be who we are, first and foremost, but also different, because we also talked on the last podcast, what you see and what you consume and what you look at becomes your reality. So the reality of yoga in America is this very white, very stale, to me, grouping of people that come and stretch together, and that's basically it. It's lacking the spirituality, lacking the creativity, lacking the functionality of real community.
And a lot of times, I think you said spirituality.
Yeah. So this community, as we've seen, is surface level. Oh, hey, how you doing? I love you. I love you too. Great. Cool. Oh, can you support me doing this? No. Fuck off. Haha. So me I'm so loyal to everybody.
Yeah.
And
you are.
To like a fault. Like if you're my friend, you can shit on me a few times before I'm like, oh, we're not friends anymore. And even then there's somewhere in my heart where I'm thinking like, I can forgive this person.
Yeah. And you and I are so different in that sense.
Yeah. You get crossed and you're like, you cut the bridge, you burn it down, you fucking throw cement in the water. There's, you know what I mean? There's no.
For a period of time until I heal those wounds.
Yeah, those wounds are deep for you. So coming into this Nashville yoga scene, at the time I did, it was essentially all white, very sterile. And I was this pothead from the West Coast and feeling like I don't belong here. I smoke weed, I drink alcohol, I go to parties. Maybe like this isn't for me. And so I just leaned into my own personality and said, I enjoy this asana practice. And I had already been exploring spirituality for, geez, 15, 16 years at that point. So I just leaned into it and said, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 10 years, and I go to Nepal, and you meet these sadhus. Sadhus are sages, or the holy men of India, and they go around begging for money, and they give you the little
Bindi.
bindi smudge. Or I thought the bindi was the,
Oh, you mean the smudge?
yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I think I wrote it down. Let me just make sure.
I don't want to mislabel it.
The tilaka,
Oh, okay.
the tiaka or tilaka,
Yes.
and they put it on your head. And those dudes smoke a ton of hash.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this whole part of the yogi culture that never makes it over here, which is like these people get down and they have parties. And it's just, so now that I've seen that, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm more of a yogi than I had ever thought. Or I've always thought I was a yogi, or what I've always, my ego's always thought of, like, this is what a yogi should be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what we're bringing. And as I've leaned more into my own personality and like, okay, this is who I am, that has lessened my feeling of being an imposter. When this American white yoga is the reality that corporate yoga is pushing,
Mm-hmm.
and the reality that these white owned studios are pushing, whereas yoga isn't even what people think it is. It's just what they're fed at this point.
Right.
So we're standing over here saying, no, this is dope yogi. This is what we're doing. This is what you can do. You don't have to do it, but yoga is all encompassing and everything can exist here, and
Right.
it should.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's something too I'm sure a lot of people experience, is feeling like an imposter in the yoga communities. If you are somebody that likes to drink alcohol, or likes to party on the weekends, or likes to eat meat, these things are sort of like, ooh, like I need to live more of a yogic lifestyle, which maybe that is what defines it for you, but maybe not. Maybe yogic lifestyle for you means that you're just not a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
Because
that's nice.
Yeah, that's important. Like you can't walk around and call yourself a yogi when you're cursing at people in traffic. I mean, you can, but that's something that you need to be a little bit more aware of. Practicing yoga doesn't mean that you need to be able to do all of these difficult postures. I think a lot of times that's what draws people to this practice. And then you get to a yoga class, and maybe you are somebody that isn't a thin white woman, and you don't have a typical, I'm doing air quotes, yoga body, and you can't do a handstand, or you can't do crow pose, or you can't do these things that you see these images of all the time, which, and then in your mind you associate that with representing what yoga means and what yoga is. And so then you don't see yourself represented in that space. So that can also in turn create this ripple effect of, well, I don't belong, or I can't do this. And then the other thing is, like, sometimes there are yogis that just meditate. I mean, they don't even practice asana, or they just study philosophy, or they just study the spiritual aspects of it, and they don't ever even step foot on a yoga mat to move their bodies. And then they can sometimes it can be like a deterrent of like, well, I don't want to, I don't practice that style of yoga. This is the kind of style that I practice. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but do you understand what I mean? Maybe.
Kind of.
Okay. Well, maybe not.
I do get though that there's so many different aspects of yoga. For example, when I was in Nepal and people are like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, we have this really cool yoga blog, and I'm here to learn about spirituality and learn about yoga from the Nepali people. and they're like, "Oh, cool. What part of yoga?" I'm like, "Oh, the physical aspect." Oh, they're like, "Asana, the least important part,"
Right.
which is, it's great for your body and it's great for your mind, but there's so many different aspects of it that you need to explore
Mm-hmm.
or not.
Yeah.
You do what you want to do.
Yeah. Um, well, maybe we can talk about a couple of ways that people can start to overcome their imposter syndrome. Are there any other areas that you've experienced it?
Um, Kind of. When I first moved to Nashville, Lloyd was hanging out with a lot of the like MBA type kids.
Mm-hmm.
MBA is like this really um,
Wealthy.
wealthy private school, and the way I grew up very poor, very not privileged, and I'd never really been around anybody like that. So I'd go to these parties, and everybody has their um, khaki shorts and their boat shoes, their Sperry's and their polos on, and there's me with my dunks, like my style of t-shirts, graphic design, backwards hat. So I had imposter syndrome for the first few times I went to those parties. I didn't feel worthy of hanging out with these rich white kids. And there was nothing wrong with them. They're all very nice kids. It just is their style and the way that they grew up. So that's the way that they are. And how I got over that was like, okay, again, lean into it, lean
Mm-hmm.
into yourself, lean into who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and just be yourself. And, I made some friends, and some people obviously I didn't connect well with, and that's fine too, but I felt good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's similarly to like the,
Your college thing.
mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. So, yeah, let's get into just a couple of ways that we can think about overcoming this if you're somebody that experiences this. Because the reality is, if you're, for example, let's just say you're a yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.
This is a yoga podcast. So we'll use the example of a yoga teacher.
Is this a yoga podcast?
I don't know. Maybe not. We talk a lot about yoga.
Yeah, I think it's a life podcast.
Yeah, it is a live podcast. Yes, we are in the industry of yoga.
Yes.
So if you are a yoga instructor, the reality is that you're going to suck at first. You just are. I mean, there's no way to be a good yoga teacher unless you have practice. And that's the only way to get better at teaching is to just keep teaching. So at some point when you start teaching yoga, maybe you feel like an imposter because truthfully, in that moment, you kind of are. Like, not that you're not good enough, but you have to work your way up to being good at something. And then once you arrive there, okay, then maybe I can start working through that self-doubt. Once you've experienced the success and then you feel like, well, yeah, I'm still not good enough. There's all these teachers that are better than me. So I think the first thing that we have to look at when we're talking about overcoming this or managing it, because reality, like the more you do things, the more you learn new things and try on new hats. You know what I mean? What's the phrase?
Yeah, try on hats. I've heard that.
Okay, whatever. Yeah.
How many hats do you have?
A lot. I wear a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the more you do these new things, you're going to experience it over and over again, right? Like it's not ever going to go away once you're in a new area of life. So I think the first thing we have to do is acknowledge when it's happening so that you're not just bypassing it. You're experiencing it. You're saying, you're identifying it. You're being able to put a label to this feeling of like, oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not good enough or all that stuff. You can say, wait. Call it what it is. Call it out. Call it, this is my imposter syndrome. And then you fucking unsubscribe. Okay? You just have to unsubscribe.
Yeah, I agree with that because like I was saying earlier, we create our own reality. We decide what is what, and by the industry allowing the industry to tell you what a yoga teacher is, or to tell you this is how you need to act, or this is how you be a health coach, and this is how you get a six pack, or you know what I'm saying? All
Mhm.
those things, the industry, this health industry that wants your money, wants to push this narrative. So this narrative is being pushed that this is what you have to be. And that's why I think that we experience imposter syndrome, because we're like, oh, we're not that. That's not
Mhm.
us. Maybe we don't fit in this, or maybe we don't belong. But it's because we're being indoctrinated into this bullshit idea. And I wonder even if imposter syndrome is a thing in other countries where that sort of, that sort of media beating it into your head that this is what it should be even exists.
Mhm.
And, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, it doesn't really matter, because this is America and this is where we live. So I think a really good tool is to acknowledge when you have imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
and then think about it in a way where you can see it for what it is, which is a lot of the time going to be bullshit,
Yeah.
and
Self-imposed bullshit.
self-imposed bullshit, and then work on breaking it down from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great advice. The next thing, I feel like there are three main points that I can attribute to helping me get through this imposter syndrome. The second one, so the first one is acknowledging when you see it, right? Call it out, name it.
You can use that advice for so many different things
Yeah.
too: anxiety, anger,
Yeah.
jealousy. Calling it out, naming it when you see it, can help with so many different things.
Right. Because then you're able to identify that this is the experience I'm having. It's not actually me. It's just that experience. It's that thought. It's that belief.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can disassociate from that and say, okay, I'm identifying that that fucking shit is bullshit. That sucks. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm unsubscribing. I don't want to have anxiety.
I like this unsubscribing thing.
Yeah, I love unsubscribing.
I've never unsubscribed to
Oh
anything,
my
but
God. I do it every day.
I am ready. The first thing there's a few things I'm unsubscribing to.
Like what?
I'm not sure. But when I figure them out, I'll let you guys know.
Um, okay, so the number two thing is, I think, learning to accept that you have had a role in your success, right?
Yes. Oh my God, that's huge.
It's like, yo, I didn't get here because I'm fucking lucky. I mean, maybe some of it has to do with luck. I have felt lucky my entire life. Everything I've ever wanted in my career, or like my school, or goals I've wanted to achieve, I've been able to do that. And for so many years I was like, oh, I'm just really lucky. I'm so lucky. I got that job that I really wanted. I'm so lucky. I got to go into this program that I was really hoping that I would get accepted into. Like, but no, like, I worked for that shit. And so I think at some point you have to accept that you you helped yourself get to where you are. So your success isn't just because, the universe was looking out for you.
No, and you work for what you want, and as a white woman, you've probably had it easier.
Of
Well,
course.
white, beautiful woman,
Oh,
you've probably
there
had
you
it
go again.
easier than a lot of people, but you still bust your fucking ass.
Every
When
day.
you were doing design, house design, plus yoga, plus real estate, plus flipping, you were working like 100 hours a week.
Mhm.
And there's no amount of luck or privilege that can replace 100 fucking hours a week.
Yeah.
That's real time.
Yeah.
When you put in 100 hours a week into something, that's insane.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I can't say that. We are using the term wild. That is wild.
Yeah. I never thought about that. I mean, it's funny because I really never thought about that until just right now, when I was doing a lot of real estate and like my home design and house flipping. I never once experienced imposter syndrome. I just jumped head in first. What? What's the term?
Head in first. Okay, guys, this is gonna be a really cool like get to know Nicole thing.
Stop.
So English is her second language, and she speaks Romanian fluently, and she'll say things like instead of turn off the light, she'll say close. Can you close the light? I think you've told me to turn off the curtains before.
No, I haven't.
I'm not really sure, but she'll say some. You'll hear this stuff. And another thing, unless we say something fucking completely crazy, we are not going to edit these podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to take out audio because I think it needs to be as authentic as possible. And just for you guys to know that we are genuine and we want you to get to know us. And we're not going to be editing shit out.
I've never edited anything out of my life.
No.
So it's just I show up who I am. This is who the fuck I am.
You've never edited anything
And if
out,
you don't
but
like
you
it,
have.
you can unsubscribe.
I was going to just say that you've never edited anything out, but you have unsubscribed.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, anyways,
So what was number one?
Well, number one was acknowledging when you're experiencing.
Okay, and number two,
calling it out. Number two is accept that you have had a part in your own success. And I think in order to get there, there's like, so here's like number two, but then there's like 2A. So like things that you can do to get to where you're going.
I'm fucking inspired right now.
Oh my God.
I don't know if it's this coffee.
I think it's probably the coffee.
Second
Shout out
coffee.
to Nespresso if you ever want to sponsor us.
Second coffee's got me turned up, or I'm just like fucking pumped up by this 1 and 2. I'm not sure.
All right, let's go. 2A. Own your accomplishments. Okay, that's kind of the same thing as 2. 2A is own your accomplishments.
Okay.
Learn that you have had it, and learn that you to accept that you've had a part in your own success. Accept and own what you have done. Grab it by the whatever you want to grab it by.
Not the Britney.
Not the Britney, unless it's your own Britney, and then you can grab it all you want. Okay, anyways, back to the topic here. One thing I think that you can really do is it sounds sort of corny, but like affirmations, man. Telling yourself that you're a fucking badass and hearing that, look at yourself in the mirror, say your own name. It's because there's been a research study that I just read about that says they did this whole study on like if you say your name out loud, like it builds some sort of subconscious confidence in you. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But so yeah, talking to yourself like you would talk to somebody that you want to uplift.
This ties into, if you don't think this works, it does work. This ties in directly to my point about the like commercial industry pushing things on you. Commercials. The reason why they work is because you hear them over and over.
Yeah.
And this has all been studied in psychology. So affirmations work because you say them over and over. It's the same thing as a mantra. People have been doing mantras for 10,000 years is probably the earliest language that they can discover. And I'm sure they've been doing mantras since then. So it's that it ties into the industry. If we want to talk about yoga, like this is what yoga looks like. This is what yoga looks like. And then that's what yoga looks like. So you create your own reality. So when you have these affirmations, you create your own reality. In my journaling, I do my journaling in the morning. I write until I'm bored or write until I can't anymore. And then I have affirmations, and usually they're different. But I do them. And then under that, I do my manifestations, which is something like that where I visually
visualize your success or visualize what you want.
My thing. Our dog is licking his paw. He's kind of got a problem with it, and so he's doing it right now. And I want to be like, yo, you got to stop, but I can't because
We're on a
we're on
podcast.
the pod.
Yes. So manifesting, we'll maybe get into that another day because I do think that's a powerful tool.
Yeah.
Like lately, I've been manifesting and affirming what my mom taught me. I am a money magnet. So far, it hasn't worked, but
One day. Yeah. I mean, and then that's money is another thing that's weird in like the health and yoga industry.
for sure.
I feel like it's I have imposter syndrome with that. It's like, how do we ask for money in this, like for this thing that we're providing?
Mhm.
And shout out to Yumi. I was listening to her and Dr.
Flex and Fly.
and I was listening to her and Dr. Ebony talk about.
Shout out to Dr. Ebony
Shout out
and
to
her therapy
Dr.
cards.
Ebony. Her talking, she was saying like, don't be afraid to ask for your value.
For sure.
Like we're putting in all this work, and at some point we have to be like, hey, it would be great if you would pay us.
Dude, I know. I struggled with that so much when I was teaching free yoga on Instagram for months. And when this whole pandemic started, and I was like, I want to just give it away. I want to give it away. I want to ask for donations. And if you can't pay me, that's fine. And then, I would show up every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And then I got to a point where I'm like, there are people taking my class like 6 times a week, and I know they can afford to pay me. Like, if you're an attorney and you're not paying for yoga and you show up to yoga 6 days a week and you just feel like you don't have to pay, dude, like you need to look at yourself because that's really fucked up. Like you as humans, as in this society, this capitalist society, we pay for what we value. And if you are not paying somebody for their time and their effort, then you don't value that. And if for some reason you feel like their time and their effort isn't something worth paying for, like, again, you need to look at that.
Yeah. And it's, to be clear, she's not asking for $50, $20. She probably would have been happy with $5.
No, I would have been happy for $1.
Yeah.
My point is that, yes, when I say donation based, that doesn't mean you need to pay me what you would pay or drop in. I mean, donate something for the time that this person's putting in and for what you got out of what this person gave you.
Especially if you're showing up 5 or 6 times a week, which unfortunately, I loved the Instagram classes. I thought they were really cool.
It was awesome. I mean, and I would love to continue doing that. Sorry.
No, it's all good. And but unfortunately, people ruin it for everybody else. But the ones that show up the most, don't pay, and that's not sustainable for our life.
Also, this is not, if you cannot afford to pay for yoga, this is not directed at you. Please know that. Those of you that you can afford to pay for yoga and you don't, you know who you are.
Also, if you can afford to pay for yoga, please email us and we will work something out.
Yes, that's a super, we were just talking about this morning, that we were going to probably announce in a couple of days that we want to create some sort of a program where if you're somebody that needs yoga and you can't afford it, hit us up, because we can do this on a sliding scale. Like, we don't need to see your tax records or anything like that. But if you are like, hey, I can't afford it, but I want to practice with you, and this is how much I can afford, let us know and let's set you up with a membership, because this is what we're here for. We're here to offer yoga. And again, like we charge a monthly fee, but that doesn't mean that if you can't afford that monthly membership fee, then you can't practice with us. That's not what this is about.
Yeah. To be?
Hold on, let me see here. What do I have in my notes?
Oh, is your computer?
Oh, this is to C.
What was to be?
Affirmations.
Oh yeah, affirmations.
Okay.
I am
To C.
a money magnet.
Yes.
I am amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you want to fill in the blank with.
Jerome.
This,
Jerome.
I think,
Jerome.
honestly, this is the most important of this part right now that we're talking about. To
See.
decide to be confident. You have to make that as a conscious decision.
Oh, that's hard.
You got to do it.
Gosh,
You have to decide it. It's a choice that has to be made. You're not just going to wake up one day and be like, wow, I'm so confident. No, that's not how it works.
You mean like it's just not going to happen.
You have to work at it.
You have to work at it. You have to decide, work at it, and then maybe one day you will wake up confident. But
Right.
you mean
Yeah.
the personality trait won't change just by nothing.
Exactly.
Nothing changes with nothing.
Yeah.
Everything, you have to work at everything. Nothing comes easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you make that decision and you commit to working at inspiring yourself and knowing that you're capable. You are fucking capable.
That's a good affirmation.
I am fucking capable.
Yes.
Yes. So last point here. So do we want to recap now or recap after?
Let's recap after.
Okay. So number 3, the third thing that you can do to battle and overcome your own personal imposter syndrome, self-doubt in your industry, wherever that is showing up for you, is stop comparing yourself to Susan down the road.
Shout out to Susan.
Susan isn't a real person.
I know that.
You can call her Karen, you can call her Becky, whatever the fuck you want to call her. Stop looking at other people's Instagram feeds and saying, well, why does she have so many followers? Why does her picture get so many likes? Why do they have so many subscribers to their podcast? If we looked at that shit, we would not have gotten anywhere. We have 0 subscribers as we film this podcast.
To our podcast?
Yes.
To be clear, there's nowhere for them to subscribe.
Oh, okay. Well, you can't subscribe yet.
No.
But anyways, my point is that you cannot live in this comparison world of, well, her headstand is so good, or she drives such a nice car. Well, I'm not there yet. I'm not good enough because I don't have what she has.
That's something like, I think that it's called like neighbor syndrome or something.
Oh, keeping up with the Joneses?
Oh yeah, that's what it is, neighbor syndrome. Yeah, that's how my mind remembers things. Keeping up with the Joneses, or like the grass is greener on the other side type shit.
Yeah.
When, like, if you compare yourselves to other people, if we did that, then we would be imagining ourselves as failures, because what we're doing, I mean, I have researched and I've looked for stuff like us, and it's not really there.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of leading this like dope yogi charge.
Wow.
So there's, we can compare ourselves to the other yoga websites and stuff, and they are doing much better than us.
Of course.
But it's, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And we're doing our own thing, and I think that's cool. And yeah, that comparing thing, I can fall into that on any given day.
It is a rabbit hole. It is bad, and it can show up in so many different areas of your life, in relationships with your friends or your partner, or your financial situation, or anything really. Anything. If you want to look at it that way, like, well, they have it so much better than me, well, of course you're going to start believing that. So
yeah, you're almost affirming negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And affirmations work that way too.
They work both ways, 100%. If you are somebody that looks at yourself in the mirror, I can say this because I did this for years and years and years and years and years. And I've literally just now, probably the past year, started to learn how to not do this. But for years, I would wake up, look at myself, and just pick apart everything. My face, my eyes, my skin, my belly, my thighs, my everything, my hair. I mean, everything that is just, I don't like. I could never see the positive. And it takes that mental shift. You have to consciously see that negative self-talk is happening, and then you have to shift that narrative, because the more you feed yourself that's what you're going to believe, and that's what you're going to keep seeing.
So, how do you do that?
Oh, well, I think it takes a lot of therapy.
Therapy,
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, I mean that it's that self it's just I don't want to call it self-improvement, but it's it's working at shifting those narratives. I think it goes back to the first point of these three things is acknowledging when it's happening. First, you have to be able to identify these behaviors and
Hmm.
identify these thoughts, because for a long time I didn't. I just would have the thoughts go on about my day and it would ruin me. Like I would be in a terrible mood. I would be sad, depressed, anxious, being comparing myself to Susie and Becky and all those girls. And it was a really self deprecating way to live. So I think it took kind of hitting a rock bottom with my ear, which that's a topic. Maybe we'll cover that one day. But side note, I lost my hearing almost 3 years ago, and
In 1 year,
in 1 year. Um,
which is nothing,
yeah.
not as bad as 2 years, but it's fucking terrible.
But I hit this sort of rock bottom. I couldn't walk, I couldn't teach yoga, I couldn't practice yoga, I couldn't barely Jeremy had to wash my hair. I mean, it was a bad situation, which put me literally on my ass and just had to look at a lot of things. So I don't know if I'm the best person to give advice on like how to change that, because for me, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody the way that I had to learn these lessons. But yeah, so. Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of like the three things that I feel like. So, number one is acknowledging when you're experiencing it.
Hmm.
Number two is accept that you've had some role in your own success. And number three is stop comparing yourself to other people.
What was 2A and 2B? 2A,
Um,
B, C.
own your accomplishments.
Fuck yeah.
Try affirmations because they work.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. And then decide to be confident. Make that choice.
And then the last one more time.
Don't compare yourself.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And all of those things, you can do them, and you might still have imposter syndrome, but it's about working towards something. A lot of people put a ton of work into their body. They work out and they diet and they do this and they do that. And that's great. And that's one part of the health and wellness industry. Another part is your mind. You have to strengthen your mind. You have to work on it, because you can make huge improvements by doing those
Yeah.
5 steps. I guess there's 5 steps with
Yeah.
the 2B and C. You can help strengthen your mind. And that's when, really, once my mind started getting stronger, is when I started feeling more confident and felt like I could achieve more things.
That's so true. Everything you just said is so true. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it like that, I don't, to kind of go back to the question that you answered, how did I get to be confident? How did I get to stop comparing myself? Is when I did hit that rock bottom. Before that, rewind a little bit. I mean, talking about really working at achieving a certain physique and wanting to be, I mean, that's all I ever wanted was to be skinny. Like the best thing compliment I could have gotten at that point in my life was, wow, you look too skinny. Like you need to eat something. Like I loved it when people said that to me, and it's so fucked up. It's obviously a whole nother episode topic, but like I did get to the point where I couldn't probably be any skinnier without like needing to be hospitalized. And I was the most miserable I had ever been in my entire life. I mean, I cannot ever remember a time where I was sadder than that. But that's in my mind was like, oh, this is what I've been wanting. This is what I wanted. Why am I not happy now?
Yeah, you got to that body image that you wanted, but
I
you
lost my hearing
you
because of
lost your
it.
hearing. Well, partially that, partially because you're working 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
But you get to that point where you want your body. It's like money doesn't buy happiness type shit.
Neither does skinniness.
No, neither does skinniness. That comes back to strengthening your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And while you were recovering, we spent so much time reading, meditating,
Journaling.
journaling, doing these things. We did them before, but not as consistently.
Yeah.
And you really strengthened your mind, which is really when your confidence really started boosting.
Mm-hmm.
One, you overcame something tragic, and two, you just really built up some incredible habits.
Yeah. Wasn't easy,
No.
but it's possible. I can stand here today and tell you it is. So,
Yeah, and to shout out our blog, we have a lot of resources. We have over 40,
yeah, a
over
lot of
40
tons of
blogs. A lot
articles.
of the stuff touches on this stuff, and like it's all free.
Yeah.
So check
Yeah,
it out.
you should check it out. I mean, that's one thing that is we don't charge anything for that, and it doesn't
No,
make us
we
any
never,
money.
we never will
Never have, never will.
charge anybody for that.
No, it's all free information that if you go to our website and click on the blog link, there are tons of articles about yoga, mindfulness, spirituality, just life in general, how to live a more fulfilled life, and how to fucking be happy, because it's not always the easiest thing.
No. And I think on that note, that's a great way to end it.
Yeah.
I think you almost cried.
I did almost cry. Oh my God, stop. I'm going to cry now.
Which would have been amazing. I would, anybody that I love betting.
I am like, yes.
It's not, wait. No, it's honestly though.
There's going to be an episode.
Over under, I would say that Nicole cries almost every other episode. I think it's really cute though. That's amazing. We love you. Please subscribe, like, do all the things.
Yeah, and
share this.
Share this podcast.
We want to connect with you. Send us messages. Let us know what you think. Let us know what we can work on. Just know that if you are a yogi and you don't fit into the status quo, neither do we at the moment, but we are working to change that, and we are here for you. So let us know.
Thank you guys for listening.
Peace.